Welcome, everybody. We've got a special guest on with us today. This is the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Schoenmakers, the owner of ActionCOACH Dallas, where we are helping business owners build and grow their businesses to ultimately improve their lives. Today, we have Gerry Reihsen, and with Reihsen Associates, he's the owner of that firm, and he's our guest. So, Gerry, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Sean?
Doing well. Yeah, appreciate you being on. So for the listeners, if it's the first time on the channel, make sure you like and subscribe and do all those things so you can make sure you continue to get the notifications when we drop more of these super valuable and useful videos of interviews into the channel. And without further ado, Gerry, again, thanks for being on today. Maybe you can get us started by introducing your business and telling us a little bit about the problems that you solve.
So Reihsen Associates is a law firm, and we provide full service legal advice and consultation and services to businesses, basically, and to entrepreneurs and to just about. So we do I personally have my specialization in what's called corporate securities law, which means that I set up companies, I help form with capital formation, public and private offerings, joint ventures, a lot of real estate development joint ventures. I do a lot of IP work. I owned a technology company. We'll get to that later. For my clients, we do patents. Obviously, I don't do the patents, but we have attorneys who can do really high quality commercial litigation, estate planning and structuring, real estate transactional work. Just about anything that a business or a high net worth person, or even a moderately net worth person, I hate to be elitist, but would need along the lines of setting themselves up well for their financial and business dynamic.
Yeah. And I know you're saying, not to be elitist, but typically when folks have a lot of net worth or they have a lot of assets, they typically need entities to put those safely into and those kinds of deals. So it sounds like I'm sure you do deal with, a good bit of folks that need those things. So yeah, it sounds like a lot of things that you do,
Well,
which
my career started in 1985, and this is 2025, so that's 40 even years, right? Actually, I got married the day after the bar exam, so my career and my marriage is the same length of time.
nice,
Um, but um, but I started with a
impressive.
big international law firm. I've
Okay.
always had global scope in my practice and my businesses, although lately I've been more national, U.S. focused because I've kind of become one of the leading attorneys in the opportunity zone space. But what what the reality is for me as a more seasoned person is I've seen just about everything, and I'm able to operate at the level of the largest, most sophisticated law firms ever. It's because that's what I have been with for a decade, and then I went on my own. But and while we're not cheap, we're a heck of a lot. We're about half to a third of the cost of my former law firm, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, as far as the
Mhm.
hourly rates go. So we're able to provide, the really, it's hard for us to have a public company client because there's a certain amount of cover your ASS
Mhm.
that the managers have to have by having a name, you know. But for the middle market companies and individuals who want that level of quality and attention and service and expertise, we're a really good option.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, and those will be some of my clarifying questions as we get into more of these details about your business. So let's move on to what makes your business so special. So how and why did you end up starting this business?
Well, how I ended up going into corporate law was that I went through college without having any idea what I wanted to be. And I went through law school without having any idea what I wanted to be, except that I wanted to do things that were productive. And I get easily annoyed by having to deal with other people's problems. So I decided I didn't want to be a litigator, although I've since learned I really like litigation. Um, and I figured, hey, why don't I focus on the types of things that really make the world go round. People who form businesses, hire employees, create GDP for their countries, and might that not give me some entree into some other opportunities? And I did want to eventually be an entrepreneur, and I did. So about half my career, about 20 of my years as a securities and corporate attorney, I've been an entrepreneur, a co-founder of businesses, and about 20 practicing. And I now kind of view practicing as a way to help people out, which I enjoy, but to be in the deal flow as well for whatever opportunity the amazing neural network of humans might bring to the table to grow a company. I love the organic dynamic. I mean, as outside counsel, you're kind of an episodic player, right? Okay, we need this task, we need this transaction, this merger or acquisition, this capital raise. But I will tell you, there's nothing more beautiful that I've ever been involved in, apart from my family, which is also very organic, obviously. Um,
Don't tell us the
in
details.
partnering with great people, and I've been really lucky to partner with really high quality, high ethos people, high ethics as well, um, and build businesses. And we've done it twice from the ground up and been very successful until both times recessions kind of killed it. But we were very successful up to the recessions that we experienced. So
Yeah,
I think so. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Oh, how did I get into it? Yeah. So that's my that's my story of how I got into it.
that's
I
my
never
story.
had
I'm
a
sick.
5-year plan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as much as people probably think that that's the norm, I think we've probably seen that a lot of businesses don't have that 5-year plan, and if they do, it's maybe not 5 years, maybe it's 1 year. And even if it's 1 year, it maybe not be that amazing. So,
Well, I admire those people with that kind of um, I don't know, planning ability.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, how often would you need to come up with these kinds of plans? Probably almost never. So, a lot of people not very practiced at it, and when
And
you
what
find,
my area of profession kind of automatically guides you. I mean, you
yeah.
got one deal after another, one company formation after another, one capital raise after another. You're interacting with lots of great people who are builders in our society. So it
Mhm.
kind of leads you down the path regardless of a plan.
Yeah, and that's nice. That's helpful. So obviously, you guys do a lot of different things related to business and folks that have various needs for entities, assets, those kinds of things. Who primarily does your business serve? So if I'm in the audience, how would I know if I was a good fit for your service?
Well, any person or enterprise that wants to grow and wants to grow with some assurance that they haven't built landmines in the road ahead for themselves. Really, that's the two companies I co-founded. We never had any regulatory problems. We never, we handled I mean, it's a funny thing that you learn when you start up a company with people is that it's always a mess inside. You're always whacking the molds. But we definitely thought ahead, and we handled the things we needed to handle. We didn't end up with I've never had a lawsuit for any of the companies I co-founded that made it through summary judgment. We won every time. Usually we won before summary judgment because we could show the other litigator what a bad case he had.
Mhm.
And I raised more than $6 billion for investment funds, and then which got hit by that big recession in '08, and we still had no successful litigation against us. So so the net, the people who want to come to me are people. I mean, I get executives who come to me also who want their executive employment agreement looked at, and I do that for the companies as well. But by this time, after 4 decades, it's going to be hard to show me anything in the business world that I haven't already. And the beauty of it is that humans are kind of they're pattern recognition systems, and we also have this ability to adapt patterns to different environments. So I have a lot of pattern recognition that makes me not only a good partner in a deal because I've seen a lot of different things, regardless. And by the way, my profession is agnostic. So if I see a business opportunity, I can take advantage of that in my dynamic. That business opportunity will need subject matter experts in that area. But what I bring to the table, like a CFO, is mostly adaptable to any business. But I've seen all kinds of other patterns, like say, hey, what if we did this that this kind of company does, or why don't we do this?
Mhm.
So that's one of the unique benefits of someone who's still healthy and still has his brain power after 40
Mhm.
years in this space.
Yeah. And yeah, so businesses that want to grow sounds like you said, industry agnostic. Any of those kinds of businesses would be good.
As far
What
as
about?
industries we've been in, I've served everybody from American Airlines to a local nursery. Um, and everything in between. A lot of investment companies and investment funds I've represented, all kinds of technology companies, including core technology, representing mining companies and oil and gas companies, uh, service companies also. So yes, so agnostic, but with a lot of industry specific exposure and expertise.
Yeah,
Now,
for sure.
I shouldn't omit that we have a special focus on opportunity zone investing, which is an amazing way to invest with unlimited tax-free upside. So
Yes.
we do an awful lot of simple, well, they're not that simple, but we do an awful lot of self-directed opportunity zone investment vehicles where an individual, high net worth person, even, I mean, I've done one for somebody who was just a starting off engineer you talk about having a 5-year plan. This guy had a
Mhm.
plan with his amazing wife. They were just such a great team. I'm very family oriented, so a husband-wife team really jazzes me. Um, but, uh, but it's like to set up these self-directive captive. I do it for family offices as well, but it's like having a Roth IRA on steroids, right? You have all kinds of flexibility to build a portfolio of investments, real estate, other companies, any company, for tax-free upside. It's just it's you. I'm not all that political, but from the point of view of the opportunity zone space, it was really lucky that Trump got reelected, just as the capital formation period of opportunity zones is about to end in 2027. It still goes on as
Yeah.
is already to 2047. You can keep investing, but there's going to be some interesting extension of that opportunity zone concept under Trump, and it's added so much value to this country. A predominance of the investment in the space is multifamily
Yeah.
housing.
Mhm.
And as studies have recently come out, is how amazing that has been I mean, and I was just at SMU at a presentation about how do we make housing affordable? Not how do we make affordable housing, but how do we generally make housing affordable? And the ultimate answer is like any commodity, right? If a commodity can be freely delivered to the market, then high prices are the cure for high prices, and low prices are the cure for low prices. When prices are high, if you can add the commodity, the prices come down and make it affordable. When prices are low, the market comes back some. But the big issue in housing is too many restrictions and red tape to create housing. We don't have that much in Dallas because Dallas is a very business oriented and it's a flat place. Nobody's protecting any mountains or oceans or anything like that. And there's very little NIMBY dynamic in Dallas. And that's why it's one of the cheapest, it is the cheapest major market for housing.
Mhm.
So anyway, Opportunity
Yeah.
Zone is great for individuals. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got people investing in barrels of whiskey. Oh, there's my dog barking. I'm
Mhm.
at my office. People have been
Yes.
investing in because the mowers are out, so she wants to say hello. Anyway,
We
barrels of
appreciate it.
whiskey on the Opportunity Zone space, classic collectible and exotic cars, collectible firearms, a lot of real estate clients, investment fund clients who want to make a bigger fund in the Opportunity Zone space. Physicians, I'm representing physicians in this space. And we've come up with a way, opportunity zone investing is very place-based, but we've come up with a way to make at least a significant portion of any business an opportunity zone business such that on a later sale, that portion of any sale price will be tax-free.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean,
What
I hate to get
so
overly involved in the opportunity zone, but it's just such an exciting place. I'm very much more diversified than that, but it's just an amazing program.
yeah, so maybe just in case people aren't clear on how that works, maybe could you give like an example, like maybe one example
So
of someone who's done
currently,
something? Yeah.
the overall thesis of the statute was to encourage generators of wealth to reinvest that wealth in underinvested communities. And how that got effected was those persons who have generated capital gains, if they promptly got 180 days, generally 6 months, if they promptly invest those gains in a structure, not in the underlying assets, you actually have a long time, like 3 to 4 years, before you actually have to find a real organic investment. But if they get their cash in that structure within 180 days, the main benefit is unlimited tax-free upside after 10 years. There's some other benefits as well. I'm not even going to talk about them because I hate that people focus on them. They're so, but I guess I'll tell you, the capital gains you put into it
Mhm.
can have a deferred tax element. It's not really all that relevant today because the deferred tax ends at the end of next year, but that's all going to get extended. And it's
Yeah.
strange. It's not strange to me, but the reality is too many people focus on the deferred. But on the other hand, it makes it really a no harm, no foul kind of environment. There's absolutely no reason not to put your capital gains in this dynamic because if you don't find an investment to make, you can just dissolve it. No penalty. You move your capital gains event up to where you dissolve it. And you might as well take the deferral. But in the meantime,
Mhm.
look
Yeah.
for some great investments where you can have unlimited tax-free upside. So that's really big. And every state was entitled to designate 25% of its low-income census tracts
Yeah.
as opportunity zones. But there's a ton of, I mean, if you know anything about Dallas, there's an opportunity zone on Central in Plano where there's a huge trailer park, but the rest of the zone is great commercial assets, the kind of stuff you see in new suburbs.
Mhm.
So, and if you know Dallas, Deep Ellum's an opportunity zone, the Cedars is an opportunity zone, where Trinity Groves is not, but either side of it is.
Yeah.
And that's all emerging path of progress kind of renewal stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not investing in slums, although there are some places that are like slums and merit investment as well. You can find a lot of great places to put your new business. I've set up a lot of new businesses that way, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I convert a lot of existing operating businesses. So
Cool. So when you say put into a structure, you mean like an LLC or like a trust or something like that? Is
yeah,
that what
so
you're?
the opportunity
Yes.
zone statute has a two-tier corporate structure. You
Okay.
have a holding company called a qualified opportunity fund, and that's where your capital gains go.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's when your 10-year period starts running, regardless of what's going on down here and how many
Yeah.
assets you're acquiring. And then that entity has a period of time to sit on that cash, generally from 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to delay because you don't know what you invest in, you take advantage of that
Yeah.
timing dynamic. And then that entity can put their money into a subsidiary called a qualified opportunity zone business, one or more of those subsidiaries. And that entity has 31 months
Yeah.
before it has to figure out where to invest. So that, yes, you have this vehicle, this entity vehicle that you put it into.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to make sure people weren't thinking you meant a structure, like a physical structure. So, yeah, like
And
a piece
the
of real estate.
interesting thing
Yeah.
that most people miss is that the 10-year period starts from when you make your investment in the
Hmm.
QOF. So let's say you have your own captive opportunity zone investment vehicle and you invested in, I don't know, some duplexes, right? You built some duplexes under it. 10 years from now, you could use that structure to buy a fleet of automobiles, rent them out on Turo, take a salary depreciation, protect all your income from the rental, and sell them the next year tax-free, not having to recapture the depreciation.
Yeah.
So once you have a 10-year vehicle,
Uh,
it's amazing I mean, you can buy
yeah.
real estate and hold it for only 3 years and whatever, it is, but it's the nice thing about it is when you put it into your capital gains into your qualified opportunity fund.
Yeah.
Is the
And
10
so
year.
also just to try to clarify in case people aren't clear, when you say tax-free upside, like you said, like a Roth, right? So basically you're saying you're using after-tax dollars and you mentioned capital gains, but hey, you buy something, you sell it to make money, or you made some money on the sale, you take that capital gain or whatever you gained and you put that after-tax dollars into an investment so that whatever it grows to doesn't get taxed, right?
That's correct. Now, your ordinary income along the way is taxed normally.
Mhm.
It's your exits that are tax free. And in real estate, it's especially beneficial because you may know that as you invest in real estate or other heavy cost tangible assets, you have a non-cash depreciation deduction every year, right? And you
Mhm.
might flow that cash out and you don't have to pay tax at that time. Under normal rules, you would pay tax on that amount when you sell the property or the
Mhm.
capital
Right.
asset, whatever it is. So this can apply to other capital asset dynamics. But the way the Opportunity Zone statute works is it writes the basis that you have in the investment up to fair value. And so you had this basis, it gets reduced by the non-cash depreciation deductions, and that portion you'll pay depreciation and recapture tax on, but instead you skip the depreciation recapture tax and you skip the capital gain. So that's one of the big reasons why real estate is real estate development and operation generally has to be development, but not always. I can explain that on some other time. But that's one of the main reasons why real estate is the predominant dynamic. But any business, I mean, if you are starting a business, you should definitely think about putting your headquarters in an opportunity zone.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, all these, it doesn't sound, oh, you get benefit on taxes, but that can be, obviously, we know 30-40%, right? It can make a big difference. So,
yeah, I mean, you can run your models and do your EBITDA, but not exclude the T in EBITDA, and you can see what the difference is with your EBITDA at that time, EBITDA I guess, and then do your net present value of the value of your enterprise based on that, and you can compare the two, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be a big difference. So obviously that's a pretty unique, not say unique, but special area you really focus on in particular. So folks that are interested in that would probably be good fits for you. So what from a marketing perspective, what's been one of the best marketing strategies, or what marketing strategies produce the most for your business?
So I haven't ever been diagnosed, but my diagnosed kids tell me I am ADHD. And being ADHD, I track down a lot of squirrels. And I've heard that phrase before, you probably have. Basically, I get distracted. But I get distracted. I'm a very, very curious person. And when there are new things in the business world, I can't help myself. And that happened with the Opportunity Zone dynamic. I discovered it right after PASS, and I said, well, this is really interesting. But what I did early on, so I had a large investment fund company called Behringer Harvard. I co-founded it with three other guys. We'd grown that to $12 billion in AUM with about 65% leverage, mostly real estate, up to 2008. And then commercial real estate values dropped 40%, which was 5%. So we were 5% in the hole. So we spent a lot of time digging out from that. So I have a big exposure, both as a owner operator and as a securities attorney, to investment funds. And the Opportunity Zone statute kind of assumes there'll be investment funds. And so the industry, the service industry, and the underlying industry that predominantly, other than the captive things and the other unique things I've talked about, has entered the Opportunity Zone space are fund people, investment fund people, right? And I know them all. So I've worked with them for decades. So when the statute was passed, it was 6 pages long. It took the IRS almost 3 years to come up with 500 pages of regulation, because remember, it's supposed to apply to every business. So you can see that there's a lot of thinking that had to go into and there's still a lot of ambiguity, which is why if you do this, you should use somebody who knows what's going on, because at least we know where to push on the ambiguity. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But what I did is I said, look, there is a lot of discovery to be had on how this Opportunity Zone statute works. And so I set up a conference and events company to call my colleagues in who were in the investment fund space mostly, and some in the regulatory space and the tax space, to come in and be at conferences to teach others. But my real goal was to set up an agenda for them to teach me for free. Mm-hmm. At least give me their thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having a lot of expertise in the space, I was able to come up with very good agendas. But what happened about that, as far as generating business goes, that I didn't really expect, is that the reality was I was relatively clueless. As I guess anybody who had any expertise in Opportunity Zone at the time was top 1% in expertise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in actually being able to know everything, do the deal, I was relatively clueless. But even though I was relatively clueless, and I obviously didn't know the fund space, so I asked smart questions and acted like I knew what I was doing. Being the MC, the sucker MC, like I used to say in the beginning of rap days, everybody thought I knew everything. And all the people who attended the conference would call me.
Yeah.
So it turned out that the most valuable and look, it's not easy for a corporate securities mid-sized firm to generate business because, that people want to go to name firms a lot, even though you have been at name firms and that kind of thing. But what I found as a result of all this was a couple things. When you're a generalist, as I am, you need to seek to not be a generalist as much as possible and find niches. And then in that niche, boy, having a conference, an event thing is powerful. It got killed by COVID, but by that time, I was a known quantity.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that I've never generated. The other thing is when you are in a niche like this, it's really hard for the big firms to compete with you because
Yeah.
the tax guys and the transactional guys, the corporate security guys, they're still doing everything all the time. And I don't intend to have 80 or 90% of my business be opportunity zone business, but that's kind of what has happened. And I do a lot of other business. I do a lot of IP contracting work, the whole thing. I've described it,
Yeah.
executive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the biggest accidental. I guess most learning is accidental.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually read a book about that one time that trial and error, throwing the metadata out the fan is actually the way most things get discovered or
Yeah.
accidents. I mean,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have antibiotics without an incredible accident.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how a lot of things I think get started. So looking back at your journey, because it sounds like there's been some, a lot going on there in the last 40 years. What's been the most memorable or hardest challenge that you've had, and how did you overcome it?
Well, my most traumatic business experiences has been to twice build a business up to the first business we built to $500 million in value and sold it for stock. It was a telecom software company. We had the leading 3G soft switch. Motorola was our largest licensee at the end of the 1990s, and we sold that for stock to a company called Zone, Zhone, which was a Maury Etchabot company. He was famous for putting together telecom companies back in the day. It still exists. It became a public company, but this was pre-public, and we sold it for $500 million in stock. And before the restrictions on our stock expired, the big tech crash happened, making the stock virtually worthless comparatively. And then, which was all right, that was not so bad. But then we built this great investment fund company, had great investment funds that were doing well. And then the next recession hit that and wiped that out. And that was a lot harder experience because that was having $12 billion in assets that you had to rationalize for your investors. And that is a huge felt obligation. When you are raising money for investments, that you carry that on your shoulders. And that was very traumatic, very hard. But I guess the thing if you would ask what I learned from it, you don't have to jump off a building when things go totally south. You may feel like you want to, but take it day by day. I mean, obviously have a plan for how you're dealing with resolving these issues. Get through it the best you can. Make sure you're not doing anything that will end up with criminal liability, which is a consideration in the security space when raising capital for investment funds. And be honest with your partners and with your investors. And then from a personal point of view, it was a little bit of a existential. The second failure, again, caused by depression, not by anything in organic with our group. We had a great group, did great. Was that I honestly, and I shouldn't admit this, but having stuff and having wealth became kind of illusory to me as a person. I mean, I still obviously generate wealth all the time and help people generate wealth. But the things that became important was having a spouse that stuck with me, and not just stuck with me, but was amazingly supportive
Mhm.
through those tough times. Um, and uh, and that was what was important, really.
Sounds pretty valuable. Experiences, even though it may not have felt like it. So, what about as an employer? What have been some of your biggest learnings as an employer?
Being an employer is a total pain, is one thing I learned. Number one, from my point of view, when it comes to employees, I am a no nonsense, straight shooting, uh, hopefully constructively critical person who expects people to try hard and do well at what they're doing. Which means that, understandably, a huge swath, high percentage of the employees out there are very insecure about things. You know, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're worried about keeping their jobs. So in general, I found I can't deal with regular employees because they they're carrying insecurities that when I behave as I behave, which I don't think is mean, but it's straightforward, they start wondering if they're going to have a job or am I being treated nice enough? So what I learned was that I need highly secure deputies in a business context around me who have the more coddling skills uh, that I could try to learn, but probably I don't. I kind of believe we're all driven by genetics. Not much we can do about who we are. But so, and I guess what I've learned about having employees is you have to understand the personalities of people. I don't know how good the personality tests are, but at least as a person, try to fit the personalities in the right way. And the other thing I've learned is God bless them, but to have toxic, I don't like that word, but the non-productive employees asked to find other employment as soon as possible, as soon as you detect it.
Mhm.
Anybody who brings uh, negativity to and in hiring, always look for the person with the spark in their eyes, ambitious. I ask good questions. I've never hired a low quality person. I've only hired high quality people. My interviews are weird because I just let them flow. I mean, part of it may be I've done so many deals, and part of doing deals when the lawyer is doing due diligence. So I'm very good at honing down to people who are fraudsters or negative people. But focus on more than the skill set. Focus on the quality of the person and their um, ethos of abundance, of ambition, of teamwork. That's the thing I've learned the most. And but other thing I've learned, having started businesses from zero and grown them to some very significant size, is that the initial years um, are hard to replicate. You're tight. People are doing what has to be done, regardless of whether that's what they have to do. I have come up with a software concept, which I've kind of worked on a little bit about how to maintain that feeling of tight loyalty to one another by a kind of a daily communication dynamic software that I've been working on with a fabulous technology guy. But the biggest problem I see in building businesses is maintaining the employee's connection to the vision. And unfortunately, as you grow and you become segmented, people are just focusing on, their treasury job or their and this
Mhm.
software that I'm building has a kind of a daily contact with the vision leader and
Okay.
among other things.
Yeah.
So basically what I did is I said, hey, what did we love about being a startup
Mhm.
through our first successes? And then how do we maintain that regardless of growth in employee count, head count?
Yeah. Well, those are some pretty good takeaways from the team perspective. I know a lot of people are challenged from a team human capital perspective. So, as we kind of round out our questions for today, before we get to the final question, how can others learn more about your company, Gerry, or how can they get in touch, get in contact?
So I am a guy who has good skills at not answering the phone or emails. So I don't mind giving people my phone and my email. So you can call or text me at 214-908-2009. Or you can email me at my first initial and last name, GREIHSEN, at swordshieldlaw.com. No spaces, no underlines, no dots, swordshieldlaw.com. So people can
Perfect.
call me, text me anytime. And if I don't want to answer the phone because it looks like a scam, I won't.
All right, nice. Cool. And last question, any special offers you'd like to offer any listeners?
I saw that question in your list of questions.
Questions? Yeah.
And for individuals, I set up. So one of the problems that people, regular people like you and I, have with lawyers is the fear that every time the lawyer does anything, answers a text, gets on a call, is the meter is running.
Hmm.
So for these self-directed opportunity zone investment vehicles, I have established a fixed fee for setting it up and for calls as much as they want, partly because people need a lot of education in the opportunity zone space when they get in it. And I really don't charge anything again until there's another transaction dynamic or something like that. And I charge a fixed fee of $12,500, just fixed fee. Now how long it takes and all the other stuff. But I guess if I were going to offer your folks a deal, I'd say I'll do it for under 10K. I'll do it for 9,500. If you want a captive, self-directed opportunity zone investment vehicle set up for you, complete with setting up every company. You got to pay that. You'll have to separately pay the Secretary of State for the entities, but setting up either the partnership agreement or LLC agreement or the corporate documents,
Yeah.
all the consultation you want. I'll let your viewers in on 9,500 instead of 12,500. And I don't know how I will know if they're your viewers. I guess should we have a secret code? I don't
Tell
know.
them the code.
We were just doing a family code so that if we got a scam call that grandson was in the slammer and needed to be bailed out, we
Yep.
had a secret code. So I'll give you that code only because I texted it. My wife said, we can't use a code you text. So the secret code will be Rover, which was the name of
Nice.
our first dog, which was
Perfect.
a very uninventive name for a dog, but Rover. If you tell me
Nice.
Rover, you get the $9,500 fixed fee instead of the $12,500 fixed fee.
Love it. Best way to see if marketing's working is to do something like this. Give it a little code, see if it works, and off you go to see whether it works or not. So, thank you very much, Gerry, for all the information from today and sharing some of the tidbits from your story and obviously different experiences. And thanks, of course, to the audience for watching and sharing. Hopefully, if you thought this was valuable, and make sure you take Gerry up on his offer if you have that interest. So, we'll wrap up for today. Thanks very much. And
It's been a real pleasure. I enjoyed it.
thank you, Gerry. Bye-bye.
All righty. Take care.